Hey, it's Noir Nerd, and this is a video which was requested actually, which was talking about like dev side projects. So how to come up with ideas for side projects, I guess, and how to sort of structure a side project, how to come up with ideas in the first place, how to follow them through, and that sort of thing. So this is a requested video, so hopefully it'll be a bit useful. I'm going to just talk, and it's mostly going to be from my own personal perspective. How do I think of side projects, dev ideas, like for wearable games or whatever. So yeah, so let's start. And this is going to be general tips, really. So tip number one: make a side project around something that you're personally interested in. Maybe it's art, maybe it's music, maybe it's, I don't know, something completely different like stock management. Maybe it's radio, or maybe it's history. So think of the things that you're interested in personally. Like for me, I'm interested in art, design, I'm interested in electronic music. So think of these things, and think of, in terms of like digital services and digital tools or digital experiences, think of something you've not seen before. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely novel. That's another thing I should say. It doesn't have, any side project you do can just be purely an exercise in itself. I guess you could separate them out into wanting to create something completely new and novel, and just doing something as a learning exercise. Like maybe you want to create a Netflix clone. There's loads of projects like that on YouTube and stuff. So maybe do that as a learning exercise. So side projects always have different objectives. But anyway, going back to that. So for example, a side project I've made, which is related to my love of electronic music and making it and having friends who do that, is the Dark Cake Net label. Now this is not really a huge side project. It's just the website itself is just a WordPress site with some e-commerce via WooCommerce. But you know, so it's like a net label that I run, and that's an example of somewhere where I've taken something I'm interested in, which is electronic music, and making and producing it, and also have a lot of friends who do that, and then providing a service for people to download that music if they so wish, purchase it. So it's sort of a side hustle in some respects, but to be honest, it doesn't make much money. I think we've had about 3 or 4 downloads since I started it up a few years ago, but that's one example of something you could do. Another good example of something you could do a side project for is if you want to experiment with a new tool. So an example of where I did this recently was with A-frame room component, which is like a simple way of joining rooms together in A-frame. So I just did a side project with that, experimented with that, so I could just learn how to use it, basically learn this A-frame wrapper tool, basically. So that can be one place where it's good to make a side project, where it's good to just experiment. And obviously another place you can get inspiration from is just looking at other people's side projects. So I just did a video which you can see, I'll link it below, which is a deep dive into my developer profile, which just shows a ton of different projects which I've worked on just for my own pleasure, just for experiments. So look at other people's work, see what they're doing, see what you can draw inspiration from. You always have to look at other people's work, I think, to get some inspiration sometimes. It's definitely useful. You can't live in a silo if you're a developer, I guess. Any other tips? So if you want to do things commercially, I guess, one way you could approach that is probably, so I guess that's like tip number 4 or something, is to approach companies and ask them where they have I mean, I've never really done this to myself, but I mean, just an idea, you could probably just approach companies and ask them where they've got a break or something that can be improved in the business process, and then look to maybe just experiment on building something for that. I think there's I had a friend who did something like this for his dad's business or something. I remember him telling me about. Basically just automated a process using programming. So that's another good idea. Another good way to come up with a side project idea. I mean, this is so glib and so obvious, but just make something fun. Like maybe you just want to make I don't know, asteroid shooting game, or like one of those asteroids games. But to do that, you want to do it all in JavaScript and stuff. Just do it. Just have it play. I mean, most of the side project building, I think, is just play. It's programming, but it's sort of more fun than probably your average programming day, because you're just trying to do something completely new or novel, or just experiment with something. Like one of the more fun things I did on it was just sort of like downloaded this GLIS library, head tracking controls of space. That was quite fun to do, and all that really was basically looking at open source code and sort of modifying parts of it, and then looking into it. Also, as well, I don't think there's any harm in that. So if you want to take inspiration from like open source projects, look at the code, like download it, maybe, and just play around with it. That's how you. It's a good way of learning. Sometimes is just downloading someone's project and just looking at how it's actually made, how it's coded, how it's produced, and then just play around a bit with it. Like I've learned a lot about Three.js just by looking at the examples and just modifying them, basically. So yeah, I guess that'll probably do. This like a 7-minute chat on side projects and how to come up with decent side project ideas. Have you got any in the comment section below? Just discuss how do you come up with side projects? What do you feel the value of side projects is? Do you think they are valuable, or do you think they're sort of pointless? Do you think they're good for your portfolio, for GitHub, for having a healthy GitHub? Or do you think sort of commercial projects have completely overrule that sort of the need for that if you've got that in your portfolio? Do you think that side projects can devalue your portfolio in any circumstance? Okay, so leave your thoughts below. Be interesting to hear what people have to say. I've been Noir Nerd, talking about side projects and coming up with side project ideas. Try to keep that short and sweet. Just want to say a few general things about side projects. So yeah, au revoir.